Alright everybody, welcome back to another video. This game is genuinely horrible, okay? Like from every angle I look at this game, and again, like most of the community reception on Twitter is mostly negative. Okay, so anyone talking about no, it's not, it's mostly positive, I don't think really understand the true scale at which this game isn't fully well being received. And I think what's happening is either we have a ton of bots constantly pushing this fake hype within these niche groups and these content creators, which their careers obviously depend on Halo for income, which is quite sad, honestly. Please get a real job. Or this community are genuinely this tone deaf and stupid that they truly do accept this slop as a AAA title. This game is genuinely disgusting from every single angle, like from marketing, the presentation of the game, the way the game has been built, the whole premise of the subject, and the delivery. Okay, none of the content, none of that multiplayer material is in the game. What is this? It's going to die within a week. No multiplayer, no firefight, no PvP experience at all, no theater mode, no forge mode, no file share, no emblems, none of that red vs blue multiplayer, none of those multiplayer maps, none of those arenas. What is this game? Like split screen, pretty much a focus point with this development team, and the base game launched with 4-player split screen, so they haven't been able to even meet those targets. Again, it's very strange what is happening here, but again, this isn't even a flagship title anymore. That's how badly they've butchered this game. It's releasing on a competitive system. Who knows what that means for the franchise going forward, whether or not they plan to maintain that strategy going forward. And then you'll find a lot of the same idiots online parroting these left-wing talking points, okay? About how it's good that we can have our exclusives on more consoles. You need to get the fuck rid of that talking point. How moronic can you get? If you do that, people will have less incentive to want to purchase the console as an Xbox itself. The system is already going bust because of the overall wokeness tanking these games. And yes, Halo is a woke game at this point. It's being made by woke progressive people, and they're leftists. And I've said multiple times before, leftists cannot create content. They don't know how to create these games. So again, I mean, if we're releasing on a major competitive system, this can't be good for studios as a whole because they no longer have to compete to make their best games. So what you get is mediocre slop where it's missing all of the content which should be in the game. Does that make any logical sense to you people? Like, can you talk about those points? It's very basic common sense, and this is pretty much the reason why I think I'm talking to bots, because they conveniently ignore most of these basic common sense talking points. The other major talking point pretty much I seen in my last video was how people were complaining about how most of the Covenant interiors are mostly purple. And I just showed you a shot when I spoke about that topic of the interior spaces from a previous game, Halo 3. That specific Halo Studios fan base don't seem to understand texturing along with these moronic developers. So this is an issue with roughness, okay? So if you're using Unreal and you understand how to manipulate these textures, you can change the roughness of certain materials so it doesn't have to be shiny all the time. I don't think these stupid developers at Halo Studios understand this, or neither do their fan base, right? So what I think is the issue here with a lot of Halo Studios environments is that they put the roughness all the way fucking up, so everything's reflecting the fucking environment, and they think that looks cool. From an artistic standpoint, it's genuinely hard to look at this game. It's difficult to look at it for prolonged periods of time because it looks ugly. Do you people not understand this? Like, what are your standards here? Like, what is the IQ of this particular group of people? Like, it's when you look at the Halo community, this current modern Halo community, it's pretty much formed of kids. I understand it, I get it. They're not as well versed on the topic. But then of course you've got these adults in there which are just low IQ autistic people, and that's a problem. That is genuinely a problem. But anyway, moving forward, I basically wanted to take a look at the game, and that will pretty much form the basis of the entire video. We will be critiquing these images, and again, I'm not too confident in this game at all. I have no idea why the game even exists. It shouldn't be happening. Like, this is just lazy slop, and a consistent theme with these people is that they have to remake content. They have to capitalize on side stories, on things that don't need to be told, and I don't have any hope that they can create unique content. This is basically Halo for the next 10 years. It's just remakes, and yeah, ultimately not good enough. Alright guys, so we are looking at the PS5 campaign, Halo Campaign Evolved trailer. Now, I have no idea why the PlayStation needed its own exclusive trailer, and again, that's just really telling, because it seems as though Xbox's priorities and the Halo Studios' priorities are all just in the wrong place. Everything just seems to be focused on bending over for PlayStation, and it's quite shocking to see, actually, as a long-time fan of the franchise. Obviously, since they've taken over the franchise, they've screwed it. This ultimately is sort of the final nail in the coffin, at least for me, because you've basically stabbed your fans in the back, at least the old school fans. I don't think anyone truly wanted the Master Chief and Halo on a competitive system. Halo and the Master Chief is what Sonic is to Sega. You know, I mean, you have your mascots, and it just looks wrong. Halo and the Chief on a competitive rival console. And then there's, again, that dumb argument about how we need to port over our exclusives and everyone needs to share each other's exclusives. And if you're parroting that fucking left-wing Goyam talking point, then you need a smack on the face, because ultimately this is retardation. What happens is, if, again, I'm going to say this again just to reiterate because some people are stupid, if you have all your exclusives on every single console, that reduces the incentive to want to buy that console, and so that console is devalued. Most people already play this dumbass console, PlayStation, even though there's fuck all on there by comparison. Just the multiplayer space just was never as big as Halo and Gears back in the day. They do have some good exclusive games, God of War, Uncharted, Killzone and so on, but they were never as big as Halo. That's just a fact. And ultimately what's happened again is we've had leftists completely swarm the industry, pushed out all the men, got in this progressive DEI bullshit policy in there, and they've tanked everything on every platform. And as a desperate bid to maintain player engagement, they've now decided, okay, we're going to give away our exclusives to rival consoles, because these are petty, stupid fucking retards. Sorry about the rant before we go into the gameplay, but it is what it is, and these people need to be removed. And just to briefly add to that, there was an interesting topic I saw online by Myth Halo. It says Asher Sharma wanted to cancel Halo Combat Evolved and Fable PS5 ports, but back then Phil Spencer made a contract with Sony that Halo Campaign Evolved and Fable comes to PlayStation day one. But Asher Sharma wanted to cancel the contract, but the breakup fee was so expensive for Microsoft to pay. And yes, Asher Sharma heard us. So again, it appears that there was some conflict within the studio and just the direction that this game was supposed to go in. And ultimately, you look at Gears E-Day and what they've done there. They've decided to keep Gears as an exclusive, and that was pretty much a main point of the marketing there, and it's done well. You've got fans reinvested in the franchise, and again, it's good for the platform because now you're bringing people back. And again, you still, if you have a PC, you still get to access the game, but we shouldn't be giving away our mascots, our AAA flagship titles away to rival consoles. And we're now looking at Halo Studios, which it seems as though they've just been psyoped and gaslit into releasing this exclusive on a competitive system, which is just the worst thing ever for this franchise. It's that entire history, that Xbox culture and that fan base have just been betrayed here. And again, the argument is, oh well, more people get to play these games, more people get to play the exclusives, and the IP gets to make more money. In theory, yes, you do get to access more people, more players initially. In terms of longevity and the quality of the game itself, you can expect to be bare minimum, and just the game overall is slop. Again, we release on other consoles. The studios no longer have to produce their best work, they no longer have to compete, and the overall quality of the product has a negative impact. And so you're just basically getting a shit game. And that fall off will hit even harder because it's now on multiple different consoles. And that player drop off, I'm expecting to be fucking wild. Possibly the fastest drop off ever in gaming history. Halo Campaign Evolved, it's adding 3 additional missions, which in total, I believe, is about 9 missions now. It's not a very long game. And in terms of replay value, I don't think modernizing this game is going to fucking do anything to help it. Sprint, massive talking point right there. Does sprint need to be in this game? I'm not too concerned. Some of the environments are quite large, so you can see how this can fit in the environment. But again, it's not exactly staying true or faithful to the original. This is more of a remaking what's already been told in their disgusting version. If this was the case, if we were allowing them to take liberties and put certain mechanics into this game, like aiming down sights, like sprinting, why can we not have dual wielding? Why do they seem to be so afraid of dual wielding? Since they've taken hold of this game, that's quite strange. They just never seem to want to make real badass characters. They just want to create generic sci-fi all the time.
Move it out! Double time!
We were losing the war. Pushed to the edge of extinction by an alien alliance bent on our eradication.
Okay, so it does appear that this trailer is extended slightly, and we get to see some of the Marines there, and surprise, surprise, it's the Halo Infinite port for the Marines. And I don't know if they've just slapped on the green visor on there, but it's not exactly fresh content coming into this game. How much time did they spend remaking the characters for this mess? You look at the characters, the NPCs, recycled from multiple different games. The brutes look like they're from Halo 2 Anniversary. I didn't particularly like that design. And then again, the Marines are a straight report from Halo Infinite. And then again, the grunts, the elites, the jackals, all ported in from Halo Infinite. How much work actually went into the development of this game? And then again, I just need to touch on the design language, because none of that is true to the original CE. You look at the original Marines, they had armor plating and they just looked really cool. That was unique. And it had that really sci-fi look to it. And this is just generic sci-fi, in my opinion. Like, the way Halo Studios design characters is generic sci-fi. And then it's just none of it. It's just lost that DNA, that Halo Bungie DNA.
The Covenant. So we made a bet and trusted everything we had left to one soldier.
So we get to look at the Chief in his classic armor there, and this is pretty much the first mission, the Pillar of Autumn, when you get to see Keys and you get that short briefing by Cortana, and then he hands you over the pistol. Now, to their credit, I mean, the environment does look really good in this department. The materials seem decent. The environment is pretty much a one-to-one from what I can see, and yeah, not too much to say about this scene here. It looks fairly decent. Lighting is okay. It doesn't seem as busy as it used to be, and then again, it's a lot darker for some reason. Again, with this remake, things do appear to be darker in places where they don't necessarily need to be all the time. It's okay to have some lit rooms here and there, and the Pillar of Autumn was pretty much a lit environment. You could see what was going on, and again, you had lots of NPCs running around, and they were on the computers and terminals and such. And yeah, I'm hoping that they respect the environment.
Those of us who managed to escape found something.
So you get a shot of one of the, I believe that could be Foehammer. Possibly not, because I remember that character, Foehammer, was black. And of course, I remember in this particular scene, this character was white and she was a female, and you had that classic visor. And it seems like they've just race swapped her in this particular scene. But again, the environment art, the assets, the materials, the texturing, everything looks pretty decent here. I've got nothing to say. The one complaint I have is how they've glossified everything at ground level when you're on Halo. Forerunner structures seem to be disgustingly... This is an issue again with roughness, and we're going to get into that further on into the trailer. But again, the shot here, the scene, the camera angles, the cinematic as its own is pretty decent. And again, the only gripe I have with this is that they haven't stayed true to the original Marine design. I'm not sure why they've added that massive planet there, and you're kind of moving over the horizon to reveal Halo. In the original, Halo was there as a massive ring world, and that was the focus. Instead here, it looks really tiny, and then they're just flying towards it. Really strange change.
It wasn't refuge. It was something ancient.
Possibly one of my favorite things about this remake. Okay, to give them some credit. If you watched my content before, I really hammered in how just the engine, the world, 343 did no justice and made the game look really shit. Unreal, you can see, is really bringing the environment to life. Now, I did make a video on this before. I kind of went into the Unreal Engine and the capabilities of it and what you could do with it in terms of its photorealistic assets, 3D scanned assets, and so on. You can really see that bringing the world to life, and it looks really good. But then again, you have art directions which interfere with the fidelity of the game. Okay, so you know, you look at the skybox, you got purple shit going on in the skybox. That's an artistic direction which I don't think stays true to the original, like certain things like that. But again, like the world itself, I personally want to see more of the world, natural materials. That's what works with Halo. That biophilic design, it's really important for Halo because much of those Forerunner structures were built into the terrain. It was almost like you were looking at structures carved out of the bedrock or cliff face. That's what made Halo's architecture look really unique. Again, like you can see those waves, and then again you've got the Warthog leaving trails in the sand, and it's really cool to see how they've blended the two engines together.
It was something ancient. Beautiful.
Alright, this is where they fucked up hard, because the Forerunner architecture in this, yes, it's the same geometry pretty much, but then the materials is the problem, because everything looks like shiny ass metal. This is a problem. Okay, this isn't what the architecture should look like. When you look back at classic architecture, it looked megalithic, monolithic. It was intimidating. It looked brutalist. It was weathered, and that was mysterious sci-fi. It was almost like it was carved out of natural material from the planet itself. It's not fucking metal, okay? And you can look at the lore and you can tell me all this bullshit about how it is some kind of sci-fi metal. I don't give a shit. This is what I perceived was going on at the time. And it looked cooler, it sounds cooler. That's more sci-fi, and it's just more interesting. When I see glossy shit all the time, it's not only makes the game look cheap, it's hard to fucking look at all the time. Because again, the weapons have the same problem. They've got the same glossy material going on. And what this is, again, it's a problem with texturing because of roughness. Okay, what they're doing is they're basically setting the roughness to max. So everything's fucking shiny. They don't need to do that, okay? When you look back at classic Halo, you can look at the Elite's armor. It wasn't glossy, like the roughness wasn't set to max, and it wasn't shiny metal. It looked more like a dolphin rubbery texture, and it looked really good. It looked like sci-fi sort of material. And again, like with the weapons as well, same philosophy, okay? They didn't look like shiny ass metal. And I don't know why the fuck they keep doing this, but it's really moronic. And there's various angles they've done moronic things like this in other sections of the game, like replacing Sergeant Johnson with a fucking white guy. I need to double check this, but from what I've seen so far, Sergeant Johnson is being played by a white guy, and again, just reinforces the perception that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're a bunch of stupid fuckers. Again, more of the interior spaces, it looks like a rerun of Halo Infinite, truth be told. Exactly what I've been saying, guys. Just metal, fucking metal.
And dangerous.
Now, this is an interesting shot because it's the first shot I've really seen of any flood biomes, any flood material in this game. Like, this could be 343 Guilty Spark. The interior spaces there And again, I need to reiterate that they just seem really scared about looking at this enemy. Yeah, really strange, but that flood mass does look really good. It almost looks like I'm looking at some kind of concept art, but yeah, it looks really disgusting and visually green, like green, that green hue, that misty vibe it's got going on. I'm enjoying that. But again, the constant shiny metal, that needs to fuck out. So we got another interior shot there of what appears to be the chief just looking around at that flood biomass, and yeah, they've deliberately hidden that because I'm sure they don't want to spoil that. That's probably the only real work they've done in this game, is modeling those flood assets, and because they haven't done it ever as far as I know. We're talking about 10 plus years in this franchise and they've never done flood, and that's embarrassing. But yeah, it just goes to show you how they strayed away from the M rating and just that Bungie DNA.
The Covenant followed us here.
Again, we have already seen this shot, but I need to just hammer home how fucking ugly that silent cartographer Forerunner inspired architecture is. Why not just stick to the original and just retexture everything to make it look awesome? Why do we have to change the architecture and make it look shit? What the fuck, man?
If they claim this...
Again, another shot of Germa. Or should I say, cool Germa, whatever the fuck it is, man. It's a trans. And that trans shit, if you look at Microsoft's policies, they have to, by default, completely evade any form of sexualization of the character. This is policy now, that they cannot make attractive females. There's no more curvy Halo 4 inspired designs. That was peak Cortana in my opinion from Halo 4. As much as I fucking hated that game, Cortana was the only reason to play it. She was very, very pretty in that game, very attractive. That was possibly the best version of Cortana I've ever seen, despite how wildly different it was from Bungie's games. That was a take I enjoyed. What they've done here in this remake, hell no. You could take that Germa inspired model and shove it up your ass. Okay, I don't like that. Okay, so this is an interesting shot. We've got the 343 Guilty Spark Chief landing in the swamp area. This was one of my favorite levels in the game. Okay, just that horror aspect of this mission, that tension, that isolation, that really made this level iconic, and it was really inspirational. It reminded me of the Aliens franchise. You know, that film when they drop landed into that power plant area and the Marines were kind of looking around, and that was the inspiration for this mission. When you go back and look at the level, especially that Sergeant Johnson sequence when you can see from the Marines' eyepiece, that was the inspiration for this level. It would be cool to see how they've recreated all of that whole sequence, but there are a few elements I'm concerned about with this level. For instance, whether or not it's raining, because I can't see any rain. And again, I did have a graphic novel, and a section of that graphic novel was looking at the events surrounding 343 Guilty Spark. The emphasis was nighttime and you're in this swamp environment. It's dense, it's swampy, and visibility is completely reduced. You're fighting in the night. That's important on this level. And again, it's a massive improvement, a massive step up from what they produced in CEA, Combat Evolved Anniversary, because that was the shittest thing I've seen in gaming history. Just they completely destroyed any semblance of darkness, any horror aspect of the level. They completely changed it into a completely bright fantasy environment. That's what the level felt like. And you take a look at the interior spaces, it looked like it was made by fucking Skynet. Everything looked like it was made by Tony Stark. It's extremely baffling what they tried to do there, and it's interesting to see how they've retraced this level and in some aspects stay true to the overall philosophy of the level. But again, those materials and the Forerunner architecture is what I'm concerned about, because they just don't seem to understand that. And especially with the character models on this mission, like, that's a problem. And then finally, the blood decals. This studio has always had a problem with blood decals. That does seem to be returning in this, but there's certain sections where it was just OP, and you had corridors just sprayed with grunt blue blood everywhere. What is that going to look like in this remake? Are they going to stay faithful? Will be interesting to see how they do it. But again, I'm expecting them to make mistakes.
He doesn't survive.
That's not going to happen.
Okay, so this is another interesting shot here of Halo, another really fun level. This was one of those levels where it's just you and the NPCs and you're just blasting through Covenant and it's so much fun. You just wave after wave, you're in defense mode on the ring and you're pushing back the Covenant counterattacks. It's really enjoyable. I really enjoyed this mission. That said, there's a few problems I have with the mission visually, because this is the problem with this game is, first off, I need to start at ground level. Okay, so the grass in the original CE, it was just a flat texture. That was what the grass was. And you look around at the environment and the grass, it made everything, it fit that minimalistic look. And that worked really well with Halo. When we've taken this game and we've tried to remake it, I found this out the hard way because, again, I messed around with Halo on Unreal Engine 5. And when you're designing certain environments, you look back at the original and you're like, okay, well, I see grass here, but if I try to place real grass, it doesn't fit that minimalistic style that we saw in the original. And it's a real problem because you can't figure out what to do. And the only suggestion I would have here is try and make the grass as flat as possible and reinforce the idea that we're on an artificial ring world, and that would kind of make the grass less visible, stand out less in these open environments effectively. That was the only workaround I could figure out against that. Again, the other issue is that texturing. So we've got really metallic, shiny, reflective materials. Now this shit really pisses me the fuck off. Okay, this is a heavy talking point of mine. They need to really get rid of the roughness on the character models, because everything's fucking shiny all the time. And it's just not good. Everything can't be like that all the time. And it's a problem with roughness. Okay, I don't think they understand it. And some moronic idiot in the studio thinks, okay, we need to blast the roughness so everything looks fucking shiny all the time. And it just makes the game look cheap. Stop that shit. Okay, so we've got the dropship, which is shiny metallic metal. Then the elite model, shiny metallic metal. The plasma rifle, shiny metallic metal. The grunts, same problem. And the problem gets even fucking worse when you're in Covenant-inspired environments like the carriers, the interior carriers, and especially when everything's fucking purple all the time. That purple is emphasized greatly, okay, to like insane levels when it's reflective, and then again, everything's dark. It just looks disgusting. And again, you look at the comparison here of the Halo 3 multiplayer map midship, and you don't have that problem. I wonder why. It's because of the roughness. They toned down the roughness. So we got another shot here of what looks like Truth and Reconciliation. And really sick mission back in the day. I enjoyed this on Legendary, especially when those hunters come down and then that music comes on and it's just boss wave. And I'm hoping that they really toughen up the hunters in this game, make them insanely difficult, and just get rid of that pistol shit to the back. That pisses me off. Why keep that in the game? That's so ridiculous. It just makes the hunters really easy to kill and just removes that tension. But interestingly enough, there does seem to be a massive amount of gore on the floor there. That's grunt blood. But I don't know if that's just from the plasma grenade or if that's grunt blood decals right there, but that's cool to see. Again, the environment does seem really good. It's minimalistic here. Not too much acid congestion. Texturing is kept to a minimal. You've got some procedurals around the rocks, and then it just looks really nice. Quite minimal and nothing to complain about here. But again, that texturing is a problem because everything's fucking shiny and reflective.
You are more than your armor.
Okay, so this shot here on the Pillar of Autumn, or that first mission, you get to see and hear the assault rifle. Again, we have heard this before in the gameplay reveal, and it seems to be Halo Infinite's rifle. Okay, why could we not just go with the classic 60 round magazine assault rifle with that beefy destructive sound effect? That was the original CEAR. Could we just go back to that? Couldn't we just do that? Why do you have to keep doing this entanglement shit with all of your shit assets from Halo Infinite? Especially with certain weapons like the Needler, the sword. I could go on, but none of the weapons seem like they're built from the ground up. The BR, another problem right there. That's the BR-55, I believe, from Infinite. Again, that shit model. Just go back to the original, please. Another shot of Halo. And again, you could really see the grass just fucking with the scene. It's way too much. And then again, that Forerunner architecture popping out with that shiny, bright shit. And I think they really nailed the architecture in Halo Infinite. Just with the screenshots in general, the environment art looked really decent in that game. It seems as though they've completely done a 180 here. And it's typical because I'm expecting a different contractor entirely to be making this build. And I don't know if it's the same people from Halo Infinite designing this remake. I fucking hated Halo Infinite as a game. I think the story was shit. The characters looked like shit. Everything about the game was shit. Apart from some of its screenshots, which looked decent. And some of the world looked okay here and there. But again, it was all pretty much fucked by those ugly metallic pillars which they just used as a scapegoat to do as little work as possible, because that seems to be a fucking issue with these cunts.
More than your mission.
Okay, so you get to see Chief here on the Pillar of Autumn, and it's nice that they've sort of stayed somewhat faithful with this environment. You do have those monitors with those screens which do have pretty much portray the original in a sense, with that funny digitized graphic on screen. That's quite a nostalgic touch right there. But again, the environment just seems really empty. There's not much movement. There's not many characters in the background moving in the environment. It just seems like a really personal scene between Chief and Keys. It's nice that they've made Keys somewhat respectable to the original design. But you look back at CEA, he looked really goofy in that game. Overall, this shot seems pretty decent.
And more than they can handle.
Okay, assault on the control room. We've got what appears to be this Scorpion tank, and the environment looks really decent. Okay, it's nice. The game looks decent when you're in natural biomes. When you're surrounded by metallic shit all the time, and it's a problem because of the reflective shit, and then again, the Forerunner architecture is shit, and same problem with those Covenant interiors. But you take Halo outside, and we have a decent looking game. So you just saw Chief board a ghost. That's really interesting because that's quite a modernized mechanic right there. It was never in that game, the original classic CE. And I'm just wondering, if they could implement that, then why couldn't we implement assassinations? Why is that a problem? Why couldn't they implement dual wielding? Why is that a problem? It seems to be like they're just picking and choosing shit, and this has been a problem since Halo Infinite. This is a typical Halo Studios 343 Industries problem. Okay, very interesting thing we just saw there, because what appears to be the interiors of the Pillar of Autumn, and you have an SMG, and as he's spraying the elite model, you see the shields flaring up, and you get that shield crack, and then you get that one shot. That was very satisfying in the original, okay, because as you're doing damage, it would indicate how much damage you're doing, okay. And one important concept about Halo as a game in the originals by Bungie is that those shields would indicate how much damage you were doing, and Halo Studios 343 Industries, they lost sight of that for a long time. Like, that was never a part in their games. I don't know if that's because they forgot to implement it or the games were just broken, but you're doing damage to enemies, their shields wouldn't flare up. In Halo Infinite, I believe, well, Halo 2 Anniversary, that was a problem. And it's just all of their games. I can't remember which games had it and which didn't, because all of their games just have been so fucking shit. I don't want to play them. But it's nice to see that in here. And again, there's that dynamic between plasma weapons and UNSC based weapon. Those plasma weapons would do the most damage to shields. They would crack those shields faster. And then again, you had those UNSC weapons, which you could just finish off those targets. And that was sort of a unique combination between the two weapons. That's what made gunplay really fun in Halo, is that you had that balance between the two. And Halo Studios, they also forgot about that dynamic before. But you look at Halo Infinite and you got plasma weapons which could instantly melt enemy characters. And it's like, okay, well, there's no need to combine weapons anymore. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what's going on. In the next sequence, you can see just reusing the Needler from Halo Infinite, and it's like, what the fuck? Again, more of those interior spaces, and everything's just shining. Everything's fucking shining. And again, just more recycled assets from Infinite, more recycled animations from Infinite. Even the brute animations are recycled from Infinite. Like, what the fuck? And dialogue recycled from that shit game. Stop.
They believe they can break us. They believe the fight ends here.
Yeah, that shot with Chief and the two hunters coming in is a terrible shot. I'm not sure where the fuck that sequence is from. Probably Truth and Reconciliation, when Keys takes off with the dropship, and that sequence just looked horrible. You got two hunters, and it makes the hunters look weak as well, because these are boss characters and they essentially should be your toughest enemy in the game. And I'm presuming he's about to do some dumb shit there. It makes the whole thing just look really corny. It's, again, the environment is a problem. Okay, so yeah, just that roughness, that the texturing, the glossiness of it all is disgusting to look at. Okay, that was an interesting shot right there of Chief. That was the last mission in the game, and when Chief basically crash lands into the Pillar of Autumn and he's pulling himself up, but there does seem to be a lighting issue, because you can see just this, if you're trying to art direct a certain scene, and in terms of like the cinematography of what I just saw, you've got this really sharp light just in the corner there. I'm going to highlight it so you can see, and if I'm art directing this scene, I wouldn't want that to be there. Okay, the lighting here just needs to look spot on. You don't want to have sharp edges like that just out of nowhere, and that's a problem. It's like they just hit render and they couldn't be asked to go back, and sometimes you have to do that with AAA. Whenever you're animating these projects, sometimes you might finish something and then you look at the final product and you think, oh shit, I've screwed up, I need to go back and do it. It seems like they didn't fucking finish it. And this is the final take I have on the cutscenes. It's that the reason I think the cutscenes in this game look so fucked up, especially when you're looking at Johnson and the characters, the Prophet that they showed off, and the characters in general from the Covenant side. The cutscenes in general in this game just look fucked. It's not reflective of the actual gameplay, and it's like they're trying to do a Blur Studios all over again. Now, the problem I had with Blur Studios and their cinematics was it wasn't in-game cinematics. It was a static MP4 loading screen, effectively. When we look at classic Halo, those Bungie games, every cutscene was in-game. And when you're looking at in-game cutscenes, that gave them some leeway, okay, in terms of the art direction, and there wasn't this fixation to make everything look high poly, highly detailed. We didn't need to see every eyelash on Sergeant Johnson's face, and it gave them some leeway, okay? That worked with Halo's art style. And when you see these unnaturally realistic cutscenes, it pulls you out of the experience. It breaks immersion a little bit. And you could see they did this in Halo Infinite. Some of the cutscenes looked really good. That was in-game as well. And you look at every single 343/Halo Studios game so far, and it's a disconnect. The remakes are static MP4 movies, and then some of the games are in-game cutscenes, like Halo 4, like Halo 5, and then you've got remakes with Blur Studios, and then it's just a disconnect. Nothing feels like a cohesive set of games. Everything feels like it's made by different people with different art directions, different art styles, and the characters are getting fucked up. Sergeant Johnson is younger in Halo 2 Anniversary. Now he's fucking old again in this remake, which comes before Halo 2 Anniversary. Like, anyway, disconnect all over the place. Problems with the art style, problems with the cinematics. Overall, I'm going to give this game, this remake, a 4 out of 10 from what I've seen so far, and that's generous, I believe. At most, possibly a 5, but you have to remember that this game is missing a lot of content. There's no multiplayer aspect at all. The split screen material in the game is missing 4-player split screen, so there's no 4-player couch co-op. That's how I've played this fucking game back when I was a kid, and it's only 2-player. That's all they could do, and of course that's all they could do because you start fucking with the resolution. The more screens you have, and it will break the game. Like, the more detailed you go, the less accessible the game is going to be. And I'm not sure if this game's releasing on current gen, so the Xbox Ones or the PS4. Okay, again, that just felt so wrong saying that, but you can guarantee it's not releasing on those consoles. But again, technical problems can influence your FPS and performance, and I'm not too sure how Unreal is going to manage all of that stress when you're playing on 4-player multiplayer split screen online. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one, guys. I shall see you on the next gameplay, because I will be looking at more gameplay of Halo Campaign Evolved. What a stupid fucking name.